Our story begins in a world steeped in fantasy and magic, following a brilliant young man known as Professor Negi as he makes his way to work at a school filled with a large number of female students. Despite the nature of the place, Negi was deeply loved by his students. They eagerly awaited his classes, enjoying both his explanations and his unique teaching style. The students greeted him that morning with sincere smiles the moment he entered the school. Yet Negi was far from an ordinary person. He possessed an immense magical power, so great that his energy would sometimes leak out unintentionally. On one occasion, a single sneeze from him caused complete chaos throughout the school. Even so, the students' affection for him never wavered. Negi apologized for what had happened, but Asuna, one of the students, refused to accept his apology, believing that the incident was far more than a simple mistake. At the same time, a small girl sat quietly by the window, silently listening to the argument unfolding between Asuna and Professor Negi. Another student approached her and respectfully offered her a cup of tea, addressing her politely as "my lady." That lady began to tell her story. Her name was Evangeline, a vampire who had lived for over 700 years. She spoke of a life filled with both beauty and cruelty, rising and falling like stock prices in the marketplace. She warned that immortality was not an absolute blessing, but could instead be a curse, one that condemns its bearer to long, painful loneliness. She explained how she had been left utterly alone after everyone she once knew passed away. Her thoughts were abruptly interrupted when a boy who resembled Negi called her by the name Yukihime, the identity she was currently using. It became clear that she had altered her appearance to look like a woman in her early 30s and had also changed her name. As she headed toward the school where she worked, a group of boys suddenly leapt at her from atop a tree. Among them was the hero of our story, Tota Konoe. They believed they could defeat her. Luck, however, was not on their side. Yukihime had already erected a powerful magical barrier around herself, preventing anyone from coming close. In a single instant, she counterattacked and sent all of them flying straight into the river. Inside the classroom, Yukihime punished the boys for their actions. She told them that if they ever managed to defeat her, they would earn the chance to travel to the capital, a rumor long whispered among the villagers. However, she made it clear that merely reaching the capital did not guarantee an easy or secure future. Tota grew angry and raised his voice, accusing the teacher of controlling them too harshly. He demanded an explanation for the magical barrier she had used. His friends stood by his side, but Yukihime ignored them completely. The rest of the students sensed that Tota and his friends had dragged themselves into serious trouble and quietly distanced themselves. Yukihime stepped closer to Tota and his companions, then delivered a brutal blow that sent them flying out of the classroom, shattering the windows as they were thrown outside. Sometime later, one of her fellow teachers spoke to her calmly, lightly scolding her for being too harsh on the boys. He defended their desire to reach the capital and chase their dreams. Still, Yukihime refused to listen to any justification. The teacher only left after persuading her to at least consider the matter later. Meanwhile, Tota and his friends were walking home from school, discussing Yukihime's magic. They longed to learn magic themselves, but lacked the money to do so. Tota encouraged them to train harder, confidently declaring that they would defeat their teacher someday. He fired them up with dreams of traveling to the capital and climbing the tower that reached the heavens. Together, they vowed to climb that tower, no matter the cost. But when training began, Tota excused himself and left, saying he had somewhere else to go. Tota headed to his family's graves. It was revealed that a tragic accident had taken the lives of his parents and that his grandfather, Negi Springfield, had passed away shortly before that. After the accident, Tota lost his memory. Still, he felt a strange sense of relief as it led him to meet Yukihime, who became his guardian. At first, Tota rejected Yukihime, despite her taking him in and letting him live with her. Over time, he discovered her kindness, and also realized that she was terrible at cooking. He began preparing meals for the both of them, which gradually brought them closer together. Even so, the sorrow of losing his family continued to weigh heavily on his heart. After speaking heartfelt words of farewell at the graves, Tota prepared to leave, only to see the ghost of a young man wearing glasses. In an instant, the apparition transformed into an older man who told him that what awaited him atop the tower was his destiny. Tota tried to ask who he was, but the ghost vanished without another word. That night, Tota prepared a delicious meal for himself and Yukihime. He bragged about his cooking skills while she teased him, reminding him of how often he caused trouble in class. He asked her to teach him magic, but she gave no answer. Determined, he went outside to train alone, vowing once again to defeat her someday. The next day, Yukihime easily defeated the boys, crushing their hopes of going to the capital. As they sat in despair, teacher Tachibana appeared and decided to help them. He gave them a magical staff that allowed them to use a small amount of magic and told them to keep it a secret from Yukihime. He spoke to them with great enthusiasm, encouraging them to use magic without fear. However, Tota was unable to use magic. Tachibana then tried another approach and gave him a bracelet that would allow him to fight. That night, Tota sat alone, staring at the bracelet bracelet, and wondering if he would truly be able to use it. Suddenly, Yukihime appeared before him, startling him. She asked about the bracelet, and he claimed that he had bought it as a gift for her. When the truth was exposed, he immediately ran away. The following day, Yukihime went out to buy supplies. On her way back, she admired the gift she had received from her student, Tota. Suddenly, Tota's friends appeared, and she realized they had used magical teleportation. At the same time, Tota was running toward her, still unable to use magic. The boys attempted to bind Yukihime with plant-based magic, but she mocked them, treating their weak efforts with disdain. They declared that they had grown stronger, yet she laughed and told them they were still completely powerless before her. At that moment, Tachibana appeared. He praised their efforts, then suddenly attacked them, knocking them all down and leaving himself alone to face Yukihime. He pulled out several magical tools and launched an assault. Yukihime tried to fight back, but due to the bracelet on her wrist, her power failed to activate. She was shocked when one of the tools struck her. Tachibana revealed that a massive bounty had been placed on her. He drew his weapon, intending to finish her off, but before he could act, Tota suddenly appeared and attacked him. Tota shouted at Tachibana, accusing him of deceiving them, but the man instantly used magical teleportation and appeared right beside him. Tota stood frozen in shock, unable to comprehend what was happening, while the hunter laughed a terrifying laugh, clearly enjoying himself. Just as he was about to continue his attack, Yukihime suddenly appeared and stopped the blow with her bare hands. The sight was astonishing. She had overcome the magic that had been restraining her. Yukihime praised Tota's courage and thanked him for the gift he had given her. Tachibana mocked her ability to break free from the spell, then attacked her again with a strange sense of exhilaration. Tota screamed in shock, but the hunter gave him no chance and struck him from behind. As Tota lost consciousness, he heard Yukihime's voice scolding him, ordering him not to give up, and telling him that he had to save his friends from Tachibana. She explained that 2 years earlier she had made him immortal, and that now he faced only two possible choices. Either he would surrender and live the rest of his life as an ordinary human, burdened with regret, or he would rise, accept his power as an immortal being, and save his friends. She told him that if he wished to save them, he had to drink her blood, and she thanked him for the time they had spent together. Tota said that he had only one choice. He moved closer and touched the blood flowing from her. At that very moment, Tachibana had reached the boys and was about to finish them off. Suddenly, Tota rushed toward him, raising the arm that had once been injured to stop him. He shouted and charged forward. Tachibana easily blocked the attack, then struck back and slammed Tota to the ground. The hunter laughed, believing he had won, but was shocked to see Tota regain his strength once more. Gathering everything he had, Tota launched himself forward and delivered a powerful blow that sent Tachibana crashing to the ground, knocking him unconscious. Exhausted, Tota collapsed. Yukihime approached him, having returned to her true form, to check on him. Tota awoke to find his head resting on her thighs. She told him that he could no longer die, and that he had succeeded in saving his friends. Then she revealed her entire truth, and told him how, after the accident, his parents had begged her to save their son. She confessed that she blamed herself for making him immortal, but Tota believed that eternal life was something wonderful. Yukihime said there was nothing joyful about it, yet she could not hide her relief at seeing him happy by her side. Tota's friends called out to him, greeting him joyfully, relieved to have survived the bounty hunter. The next day, they bid farewell to Tota as he left the village with Yukihime. Saddened that they could not go with him, they told him to take care of himself. Tota and Yukihime set off toward the capital. Yukihime asked him about his goal after climbing the tower. Remembering the vision he had seen, Tota told her that something great awaited him at the top. Upon entering the city, Tota was amazed by the buildings and roads and puzzled by how empty the streets were. Yukihime explained that the world's population was smaller than he imagined, but Tota paid little attention. His thoughts were consumed by the tower and the fact that they were heading toward the capital. She asked him about his excessive excitement. He smiled and said he was excited because he would make new friends in this new place. The two immortals stopped to rest for a while. Yukihime reminded him that they were immortal and that he needed to be cautious when forming friendships. Tota went to bathe in the river, and while thinking about his new life and Yukihime's words, he suddenly collided headfirst with someone else bathing there. With his usual naivety, instead of apologizing, he bluntly asked, "Who are you?" The stranger was deeply offended and considered him rude, angrily drawing a weapon. Tota leapt away quickly and asked the person to wait a moment. Only then did Tota realize that the stranger was not a boy. He was about to speak, but the stranger struck him on the mouth with the weapon, silencing him instantly. After both of them got dressed, Tota apologized for his foolish words and irritating behavior, but the stranger raised the weapon at him again. The stranger introduced themselves as Kuromaru, praising Tota for being able to dodge the earlier strike. Tota gave his name and said he was heading for the tower. Kuromaru replied that they had come from there. Tota grew extremely excited upon realizing he was standing before someone who had already climbed the tower. However, the story was not a happy one. Kuromaru explained that they had been cast out by their wealthy family and told not to return unless they eliminated the dark magic. Tota immediately understood that they meant Yukihime, but he remained silent. Kuromaru suddenly noticed that Tota had no reflection. At that moment, Yukihime arrived. Kuromaru attacked her, but she calmly stopped the weapon with a single finger and mocked them, stating that they belonged to a family of monster hunters. Tota tried to stop his new friend, but Kuromaru explained that their family was forced to hunt beings like them. Kuromaru used an extremely powerful technique, but Yukihime suddenly struck them with her hand. Tota feared she had killed Kuromaru and shouted at her in anger, but Kuromaru quickly regained consciousness as if nothing had happened, shocking the two naive immortals. Seizing the moment, Tota tried to satisfy his curiosity and confirm whether his new friend was male or female, but Kuromaru woke up and struck him immediately. Kuromaru scolded him, insisting that what he had done was inappropriate. Tota tried to justify himself, saying he had not seen anything. Kuromaru then turned toward Yukihime again, and she was ready to teach the foolish child a lesson or two. Tota attempted to intervene, but Kuromaru was consumed by anger and pain over being rejected by their family. With her love for trouble, Yukihime said to Kuromaru, "If you want to face me, defeat Tota first." Kuromaru stood before Tota, as Yukihime sat down to watch. Kuromaru attacked swiftly, but Tota dodged every strike. He tried to talk and calm them down, but Kuromaru refused to listen. Deciding to get serious, Tota set a condition for the fight, stating that he was unarmed. Foolishly, Kuromaru handed over their weapon. In an instant, Tota threw the weapon back and struck Kuromaru while dodging their attacks. The clash intensified, with both of them exchanging powerful blows, until Yukihime found herself enjoying the spectacle. Suddenly, Kuromaru unleashed a fierce strike, believing the fight was over. But Tota held on, steadied himself, and delivered a decisive blow that knocked Kuromaru to the ground, ending the small duel in his victory. Tota worried that he might have hurt Kuromaru too much, then felt distressed upon seeing the sadness caused by the defeat. Kuromaru thought Tota would ask for something strange or embarrassing, but instead, he surprised them with a simple request, that they become friends. After that, Tota and Kuromaru went to the hot springs. Kuromaru felt embarrassed about their appearance, prompting Tota to tease them. Driven by a strange impulse, Tota even had his past self sign a friendship contract declaring them friends forever, before returning to his jokes, only for Kuromaru to respond by dumping a bucket of water over his head. The two friends talked about Kuromaru's family, how they had cast them out, and how there was no place left for them. Tota suggested that Kuromaru join him and Yukihime on their adventures. Kuromaru felt saddened, so Tota tried to lighten the mood with one of his usual foolish ideas. Pointing toward a tall cliff, he said Yukihime was there and declared that the goal was to climb it. Kuromaru was uninterested and tried to stop him, warning him of Yukihime's strength, but Tota refused to listen and decided to climb alone. Tota reached the top of the cliff and jumped toward the place where he believed Yukihime would be, only to find a small girl instead. He wondered who she was, and in his naivety, failed to realize she was Yukihime, forcing her to change back into the form he knew. Tota began joking with her, so she punished him with an ice attack. Kuromaru feared she had hurt him, but Tota was more interested in the magic used against him. Yukihime attacked again and knocked him off the cliff. Kuromaru saw Tota falling and rushed forward, saving him at the last moment by grabbing his hand. Tota asked Kuromaru to let go, and Kuromaru obeyed. Using the moment, Tota fell near Yukihime. She intended to reward him, but he went too far and mocked her age, earning immediate punishment. Kuromaru laughed as they watched the two teasing each other, and Tota felt happy that Kuromaru had accepted them and felt at ease around them. Yukihime promised to train Kuromaru so that they could challenge her in the future. Tota returned to teasing Kuromaru about their clothes, and the three of them walked back toward the city together. Tota was overjoyed at having gained a new friend. Along the way, Tota asked whether the world was full of immortals, and Yukihime confirmed that it was. Tota said he dreamed of gathering all immortals and forming a superhero team like the Avengers, believing that since they possessed great power, they should use it for good. Kuromaru was astonished by this way of thinking, while Yukihime laughed at him, then told him that someone had once said the same thing to her long ago. Suddenly, several cars pulled up beside them, and one of them slammed into Tota, knocking him to the ground. A man in a formal suit stepped out of one of the vehicles, accompanied by a girl in a school uniform. Both greeted Yukihime with unmistakable respect. Then men dressed in black climbed out, unfurled a special carpet, and laid it down so Yukihime could walk across it to the car. Only then did it become clear. Yukihime was the leader of a massive organization, something akin to a Japanese mafia syndicate. Tota stared, stunned by what he was seeing, and asked Yukihime what was going on. But the school-uniformed girl bristled at the way he spoke so casually to her boss. She sneered, calling him nothing more than a child Yukihime had been raising. She even added that she would like to get rid of him, but Yukihime replied calmly that doing so would take a very long time. Yukihime got into the car, then turned to Tota and told him that his dream of founding an organization of immortals had come a little late. She had already founded one, an organization called UQ Holder, a family of immortals Immortals. Yukihime and her men boarded a yacht that carried them to an island where the organization's headquarters stood. Tota was incredibly excited to meet all the powerful people in the group, wishing he could become friends with every single one of them. Meanwhile, the school-uniformed girl scolded her leader for bringing the naive Tota into the team. Yukihime answered that she and Tota were likely the two strongest members of the organization, and that was precisely why they should be friends. The girl's anger only grew. Tota was amazed by the headquarters. He noticed how the men in black treated Yukihime with respect and affection, while she brushed them away as if they were worthless. Tota and Kuramaru began wondering what kinds of powers they might face there, and then, suddenly, a group of strange figures appeared before them, including the school-uniformed girl, Karin. A man wearing glasses and a butcher's apron stepped forward and explained that the world was filled with many different kinds of powerful beings. They introduced themselves: Jingoro, the number 6 of UQ holder, and the cheerful Ameya, number 10. Tota said he wanted to become friends with everyone, but Jingoro told him they would have to pass a test to join. Tota brightened the moment he heard the test involved facing powerful creatures, treating it like a game. But Yukihime had something different in mind for Tota and Kuramaru. She told them they would be facing the members of UQ holder themselves, with permission to use any tools or even indirect methods. Kuramaru warned the overexcited Tota not to act recklessly or they would fail the test. Jingoro announced that he would face Kuramaru, while Karin decided she would teach the leader's favorite a lesson. Tota tried to attack Karin, but she avoided him swiftly and countered with a strike that knocked him to the ground. She mocked him, saying he attacked without thinking. Kuramaru felt irritated by Tota's behavior, but Tota replied that a fight makes no distinction between man and woman. Kuramaru asked Jingoro for an honorable match and launched his attack, only to be defeated with ridiculous ease. Later, Tota complained to Kuramaru that he could not get close to Karin even once, and admitted he wanted to find a way to surprise her. Kuramaru was shocked by what he was saying, but Tota understood that he would lose either way. Kuramaru recalled his fight with Jingoro and felt the gap between them had been enormous. Just then, they saw a girl working nearby, carrying bags of trash. She stumbled and fell. Tota and Kuramaru rushed to help her, and she thanked them, explaining that she was an ordinary human who worked at the headquarters. Tota introduced himself and Kuramaru, and they learned her name was Yuki. They told her they were ready to help with any task she needed, but Kuramaru reminded Tota that they had to pass the test first. Tota promised to keep training, and at the same time, to help Yuki with anything she asked. Yukihime remembered Tota's grandfather, and the day he had come to take her test, accompanied by the girls of the class he taught as they cheered him on. She wondered how Tota would overcome the test, while that idiot was busy helping Yuki with her work. Tota was carrying boxes with Kuramaru when he suddenly heard a voice inside his head. He followed it until they reached an underground cellar. Kuramaru mocked him for it, but they kept going. Inside, they found a sword embedded in the ground, and beside it, a man who was completely drunk, resembling Jack Sparrow. His hair was red, and his mannerisms were strikingly similar. The man joked with them and introduced himself as Jinbei, the number 2 of UQ holder. The two youths were impressed, until they quickly realized his foolishness rivaled even Tota's. Jinbei told Tota to pull out the magic sword, saying that if he could draw it, he could have it, though he warned him that the sword was exhausting for its user. At first, Tota was not interested and refused, but Jinbei convinced him by saying anyone looked cool while holding a weapon. Tota tried to pull the sword and failed, causing Jinbei to laugh mockingly. Then Tota heard the voice again, ordering him to flip a switch on the sword. He did, and drew it effortlessly. Jinbei was shocked and demanded to know what he had done. Tota answered that someone had spoken to him. It turned out the sword itself had been the one speaking, which frightened Tota, but Jinbei shouted at the sword and ordered it not to help again. He returned the sword to its place, turned the switch off, then told Tota to grab it once more. Suddenly the sword became unbelievably heavy, and Tota collapsed under its weight. Jinbei explained that he could change the sword's weight whenever he wanted during battle, and that it might suit Tota if he learned to control it. Then he began demonstrating different levels of increased weight. Tota vowed to train with all his strength. The two youths continued training in the cellar every day, while also helping Yuki with her work. Jinbei told Yukihime their training was going well, but she was more concerned about the drink that had disappeared. They trained until the final day of the test. They emerged from the cellar ready to face the examiners. Kuramaru promised Jingoro that he would land a hit before the day ended, then suddenly attacked him. In his naivete and excitement, Tota thought Karin had been among them, and called out to her. She appeared suddenly, her clothes torn. Yukihime appeared as well, and congratulated them on defeating the monsters. She asked about the result of the test, and Jingoro told her Kuramaru had passed. At the same time, Tota was begging Karen to let him fight her again. Karen told Yukihime that Tota had passed the test too, because he had damaged her clothes. Tota ran toward her in delight, trying to hug her, but she struck him on the head. Yukihime announced that they had opened a rift that allowed monsters to escape from the cellar, and that they had to go down now and eliminate every remaining one. She opened a hole in the ground and dropped them all back into the cellar. From afar, Jinbei was watching and trying to slip away quietly, but Yukihime turned to him and reminded him that he had stolen her drink, then sent him to join Tota and Kuramaru to deal with the monsters. Later on, Tota was training with his sword in the courtyard, speaking with Yuki as he mentioned that he and Kuramaru had received a surprise mission from Yukihime. Driven by jealousy, Yukihime had assigned Karen to monitor them during this new mission. Karen was pleased, as it gave her an opportunity to deal with Tota up close. At first, the mission seemed easy, and Tota assumed he would be riding comfortably in a car, but Karen forced them to run all the way to the mission site. Along the way, she explained the city's situation, stating that many of the poor had left the capital and settled in the slums. Yukihime had sent Karen and the two boys to protect an orphanage there. Tota praised Karen, saying that although she appeared harsh, she had a kind heart. She responded by striking him on the head, reminding him to respect himself when speaking to her. Tota rushed ahead and spotted a group of men in formal suits standing in front of the orphanage. He leapt into the middle of them and knocked them all to the ground, then shouted naively, announcing to the orphans that he had come to save them. However, the nun informed him that the men he had taken down were other members of UQ Holder. Tota, Kuramaru, and Karen decided to determine who would handle the work through arm wrestling. As expected, Tota lost every single round. He grew furious, then went into the kitchen and prepared a meal for them. Once the food was served, everyone was astonished by how good it tasted. Karen mocked him, saying he was nothing more than a cook and advising him to become a chef. Tota refused, but everyone agreed that he should handle the cooking from now on, since he was hopeless at arm wrestling. Karen advised Tota that if he wanted to improve, he needed to train in flash step. After that, the nun took Karen and Kuramaru to show them the slums, while Tota headed to an open area to train. He began running non-stop until he accidentally woke a massive man who looked like a soldier. The man was irritated by the comedic display Tota called training. Tota stopped, thinking he had finished his training, but the man suddenly attacked him, beginning to teach him the true meaning of flash step. He explained that he was a wandering fighter, and that he was interested in training Tota. Tota told him he wanted to learn flash step so he could win at arm wrestling. The man showed him how he was completely ruining the technique, then began teaching him the correct method. Tota was amazed. The man even drew a diagram explaining the relationship between arm wrestling and flash step. Tota did not understand, so the man explained that he needed flexibility in his legs. He then demonstrated flash step in midair, leaving Tota utterly astonished. Afterward, he introduced himself as Kaido, a wandering fighter, and promised to take Tota as his disciple if he proved capable of learning quickly. That night, Tota prepared food using only his legs, impressing everyone at the orphanage. They joked about him using his feet, but thoroughly enjoyed the meal. Tota even tried eating with his legs, though it exhausted him greatly. The next day, he returned to train with Kaido. It was clear that he had improved, but he still kicked up dust while moving. Kaido explained the movement again, and Tota continued his training at home, using his legs for everything he normally did with his hands. The two continued training, but Tota still did not fully grasp the concept. Kaido told him that it had taken him a full 6 months to master leg usage. Kuramaru noticed Tota cooking with his feet and asked about his training, then offered to teach him flash step himself, but Tota refused. The next day, 2 heavily built men appeared in the slums, joined by Kaido. Kaido told the blind leader Nagumo that he was training a powerful boy in the slums. Nagumo assumed they had come to purge the area, but Kaido replied that he was merely maintaining his level. Suddenly, Kaido transformed into a werewolf, while the third man, who appeared insane, joked about how soft his fur looked. After that, Nagumo led a team of immortal hunters down into the slums to begin the purge. UQ Holder's men, dressed in black, were guarding the area when Tota arrived with a child from the slums who was training to use his legs just like Tota. They brought food to the guards. As the guards were eating, grotesque dolls suddenly attacked them, while the nuns stood guard outside. A gate opened in the ground, and one of the immortal hunters attempted to attack Karen, but she instantly erected a barrier. She managed to seize his gun and fire it, yet he blocked the bullet with his dagger. The madman mocked her survival, but Karen was deeply worried about what was happening outside. He attacked again. She fired back, but he knocked the gun from her hand, forcing her to fight with her fists. He attempted to slash her neck, but her skin was unaffected, delighting him and driving him into hysterical laughter. She seized the opportunity to strike him and slam him into the wall, but he opened another gate, pulled out a second gun, and fired from within it. Mocking her, he said she could not feel pain and praised her for giving him such an enjoyable fight. He introduced himself as Chao, explaining that his sole purpose was to keep her occupied. Meanwhile, Tota was walking with the young boy, learning how children in the slums lived. Suddenly, they saw fires breaking out. out. Tota tried to contact the guards, but there was no response. They had all been killed by the grotesque dolls. The dolls attacked, and Tota rushed to protect the child. Kuromaru realized that the dolls were hollow inside, leaving them unsure how to deal with them, especially after the enemies set fires to force the residents out. Kuromaru suggested heading toward Karin when Kaido suddenly appeared before them in his werewolf form. The blind leader Nagumo appeared behind them as well. Tota ordered the child to run and return to the slums. Kaido mocked Tota for being an immortal vampire, then attacked him and placed a magical seal on him. He then turned toward Kuromaru, who prepared to defend himself. Nagumo attacked, but Kuromaru dodged the strike. Nagumo told Kaido that they would attack Kuromaru together due to his fighting style. At that moment, Tota lay motionless on the ground, while Karin was being tortured at Chao's hands. She tried to break free, but he bound her with shadow magic and froze her movements, then stabbed her while mocking her magical abilities. As for Kuromaru, he launched fireworks into the sky using a special technique. The enemies attacked, but he dodged and countered. Kaido suddenly intervened and kicked him, giving Nagumo the chance to sever his arm. Kaido attacked again, but Kuromaru cut off his opponent's arm as well, then retreated. Kuromaru reattached his arm, and Kaido did the same, mocking him as he prepared to finish him off using Flash Step. Kuromaru never even saw the attack coming. Kaido began pummeling him as if he were dough, then split him in half with a devastating kick. Kuromaru collapsed in front of Tota, who was still unconscious. Tota was still bound by the magical seal Kaido had placed on him, while Kuromaru feared the fate awaiting him. Kaido used several weapons and pinned Kuromaru to the ground. He was about to attack him with ice when the child from the slums suddenly leapt in front of Kuromaru to protect him, boldly challenging the hunters to attack him instead of destroying their town. Long ago, there had been a young girl targeted by witch hunters. Despite their repeated attempts, they had been unable to kill her. She felt pain, yet her blood never flowed. They called her the Steel Saint. One day, a girl appeared and took her away from the city. The madman Chao mocked Karin for being the Steel Saint. As he drove his dagger into her body, he was fascinated by the fact that she did not bleed. The child rushed at Kaido, but it was like a fly attacking King Kong. Kaido stopped the attack with a single finger, grabbed the child, and was about to kill him. The child asked why they wanted to kill them. Nagumo explained that they were mercenaries, paid to kill them because the land did not belong to the slum dwellers. Mercenaries carried out the filthy work on behalf of the rich who lived high above the tower. Kaido prepared to kill the child, but Kuromaru unleashed his weapons and pinned Kaido to the ground, then leapt in to shield the child from Kaido's strike. The blow never came. Tota had broken the magical seal on himself and blocked Kaido's attack. Chao continued mocking Karin, but she was cold as a blade. She kicked him between the legs and shattered the shadow magic restraining her. Chao saw her begin to glow and sneered, calling her cursed. She replied that she was blessed by love. She struck him hard, sending him spinning, then delivered a holy punch, followed by a relentless barrage of blows until he collapsed unconscious. Tota faced Kaido and prepared to fight, smiling when Kuromaru asked how he had freed himself from the spell. Nagumo was equally stunned by this fool's ability to break free and asked about the ugly gloves that had appeared on Tota's arms. Tota was shocked when he noticed the gloves, but his anger over what they had done to his friends burned hotter. Kaido attempted to attack, but Tota dodged and drove a punch into his stomach. Kuromaru asked about his new appearance, but Tota only knew that he had become incredibly strong. Nagumo sensed the power dwelling within Tota and warned Kaido, but Kaido was addicted to battle. Tota asked Kuromaru about his regeneration, excited that he would finally learn whether he was male or female. Kaido tried a sneaky attack on Tota but was met with a crushing punch to the jaw. Nagumo struggled to understand Tota, while Kaido burned with excitement at facing a powerful opponent. Tota told Kuromaru to take the child to safety and declared that he would handle the mercenaries himself. Kuromaru hesitated, worried about leaving him alone, but Karin appeared at once and promised to deal with the strongest among them. She apologized to Tota for how badly the mission had spiraled out of control. Kaido approached, intending to fight. Tota agreed, thinking it was Kaido. Kaido laughed and returned to his human form. Tota praised his abilities and asked why he attacked children. Kaido replied that he only wanted to fight monsters like Tota, and that he was willing to do any job as long as it gave him the chance to face such beings. The two stood face to face, vowing to defeat one another. They used flash steps, searching for openings, exchanging blows for several seconds. Then Kaido decided to show Tota the true meaning of flash step. He burst forward at inhuman speed and pierced Tota's heart, ending the battle. Kaido was about to seal Tota, but his aura suddenly changed. Kaido lost his hand as he tried to pull it free from Tota's body. Tota emerged like a true monster, gathering his shattered heart and healing it instantly. Nagumo explained to Karin that Tota was using an extremely dangerous magic called Magia Arabea, a spell that puts the user's soul at risk and may destroy destroy it entirely. Only 2 individuals had ever used it before. The first was Dark Evangeline, Yukihime's former name. The second was Negi Springfield, Dark Evangeline's student, and the only one who had ever used the magic's complete form. Nagumo said he had met both of them years ago on Mars and had long feared the emergence of a third user who might disrupt the balance of the world. Meanwhile, Tota treated Kaido like a worthless doll, flinging him left and right before throwing him into a building and unleashing a storm of attacks. Nagumo grew uneasy and moved to intervene, but Karin stopped him with her sword, assuring him that UQ Holder would deal with Tota if he ever became a threat to the world. Kaido finally surrendered, unable to defeat the monster called Tota, and begged him to kill him. Tota refused. He halted his assault, wrestled with the murderous rage within himself, and succeeded in controlling the magic on his own. As a werewolf, Kaido healed rapidly and prepared to fight again, but Tota mocked him. Kaido admitted defeat, praised Tota's strength, and proposed settling things with arm wrestling using Flash Step. Tota agreed, and the arm wrestling match began under everyone's watchful eyes. Nagumo praised Tota for mastering such dangerous magic. Kaido flipped a coin to begin the match. The moment it hit the ground, Kaido began to collapse, while Tota, crying, scolded him for his life choices. Like a remorseful child, Kaido was shocked to realize that Tota was using only his natural strength in the contest. In a burst of fury, Tota crushed Kaido's arm and destroyed the building at the same time. Nagumo was astonished. Tota had defeated Kaido without using Magia Arabea. Even Karin was impressed by that power. Kaido begged Tota to kill him, but Tota ignored the plea. Nagumo appeared, took his companion, and withdrew. The slum residents gathered to watch the fires spread, until Yuki suddenly appeared and extinguished the flames with ice. Nagumo was amazed by what he saw. Yuki stepped forward to greet him. Tota was shocked that she knew the blind mercenary leader, but she mocked him for getting beaten up. Yukihime praised Kuromaru for alerting them with the fireworks. Nagumo apologized for dragging Yuki into the battle. He drew his sword, and everyone prepared for another clash, but instead, he opened a gate and fled, taking Kaido with him. Afterward, the group descended into the city. Tota told Yukihime about the magic he had used. She explained that it came from her blood, and from being part of her family. The slum children invited the UQ holders to eat with them. Tota kept teasing Karin because she was smiling, and earned a blow to the head with her weapon. They did not realize that a drone had recorded everything, and that someone high above the tower was watching. Tota's magic sword complained to Kuromaru that the happy idiot had not brought it to the fight. Kuromaru asked the sword about Tota's display of power. The sword mocked him, saying it was obvious he had feelings for Tota. Kuromaru fled in embarrassment, then saw Tota heading out with Yuki. Yuki had built a small motorboat from scrap, and Tota was deeply impressed during their ride. She told him about her dream, and Tota encouraged her, filling her with joy. Kuromaru went to bathe, thinking about what the sword had said about his feelings toward Tota. Karin entered the boy's room to assign Kuromaru a task, and found him naked. Mistaking him for a girl, she scolded him, saying it was wrong for a girl and a boy to be alone in a room. Kuromaru defended himself, explaining that he was not a girl, but was actually genderless. He asked Karin to keep this secret from Tota, and explained that his lineage chooses its gender upon reaching a certain age. Karin attacked him, asking what he would choose, insisting he become a girl so she could love Tota. It was driven by jealousy. Yuki had become Tota's favorite. Karin knocked the sword from Kuromaru's hand and ordered him to choose to be a girl like Amaya, who had modified his body with technology. Amaya had been watching and intervened between them. Karin tried to justify herself, and Amaya reassured them that he would not reveal Kuromaru's secret. Meanwhile, Tota was cleaning and wondering where Kuromaru had gone. Suddenly, a girl who looked as if she had just returned from a journey appeared and asked about Tota. It turned out that Amaya had dressed Kuromaru as a girl and changed his hair color to deceive Tota. He wanted Kuromaru to go out with Tota as a girl, so he could decide for himself. Tota believed he had met Kuromaru's relative, Kuryo, but in truth, it was Kuromaru in disguise. Even so, Tota felt hurt that Kuromaru had hidden the truth from him. Kuryo asked Tota to show her around the capital. He tried to apologize, saying he did not know the places well, but she insisted, and as always, his kind heart gave in. From a distance, Karin and Amaya were listening in. Karin ordered Amaya to carry out the plan she had wanted Kuromaru to do. Tota and Kuromaru boarded Yuki's boat, and she warned them it was not fast. Along the way, Tota noticed a strange girl. Yuki explained that she lived high up on the tower. The four-eyed girl watched them with fear as she observed. Tota continued the trip with Kuryo toward the capital. They enjoyed the road, while the sword Kurobo complained once again because Tota had left it behind. When they arrived, Tota began showing her the city. Kuryo looked happy as she walked behind him, but her sandals snapped. They sat beneath a tree, and he fixed it for her. In that moment, Kuromaru felt that being a girl might actually be something wonderful. The two decided to go up to see the tower. Without their knowledge, Chao was watching them from the shadows. Elsewhere, Yukihime and Jinbei were talking about the appearance of Magia Arabea in Tota. Tota. Yukihime seemed worried about him, while Jinbei mocked things as usual, until she threatened him with ice. She then announced that Tota had drawn the attention of someone extremely dangerous, a man who had been watching their last battle through a drone, and whose name was Fate Avarice. Tota and Kurio reached the top of the tower, and Tota felt wildly excited, then scolded himself for paying a huge fee to go up like children at an amusement park. Kurio asked him why he had come. He remembered the vision he had once seen, but he lied and said they had sworn to reach the top. Tota said that Kuromaru was his closest friend. Kuromaru felt a pang of sadness because he was being seen as a boy, not as a girl. Shyly, he asked Tota if he liked girls, feeling that he was not nice enough. Tota reassured him and encouraged him to believe in himself. Tota stepped away briefly to get something, leaving Kuromaru alone with his thoughts. Should he change himself and become a girl for Tota? At sunrise, Chao suddenly appeared and attacked Tota. Tota reacted instinctively, then steadied himself to fight. Chao opened a shadow gate that dragged Tota inside. Kuromaru forgot he was in a girl's body and drew his sword to save his friend, but the enemy was ready. He could not fight properly in the new body, took a blow, and fell. A man with 4 arms and swords appeared, scolding Chao because their mission had been surveillance only. Chao mocked him, calling him boring. Kuromaru realized they were going to take Tota. He rushed to attack Chao and Asura, but Chao dropped him with a strike to the neck. Asura attacked him, threw him out of the window, then continued beating him. Kuromaru regained consciousness with his clothes torn, and Chao attacked again with shadow magic, trying to swallow him. While Asura continued mocking Chao, Kuromaru remembered Tota's laughter and the words he had spoken when he asked him to be friends. Then Kuromaru's rage exploded. He shattered the shadow bindings, rose, and leapt into attack. He declared that he was Tota's partner and that he would protect the good-hearted idiot no matter what. He pulled Tota out and freed him from the shadow prison. Asura decided to withdraw as the police drew near. Tota regained consciousness and asked about Kurio. Kuromaru told him he had taken her somewhere safe, then scolded him for giving up so easily. Kuromaru decided that he would not choose to be a boy or a girl and would leave the decision to fate. Tota said Kurio had been very beautiful and that he might marry her someday. Kuromaru's face turned red with embarrassment. Elsewhere, a strange girl named Kiri was playing in the sand. Amaya came and told her the boat was ready. She replied that the occasion had not begun yet. Karen and Amaya accompanied Kiri to the capital. There, Karen asked Kuromaru about his outing with Tota, while Kiri asked Amaya to let her sit with Tota alone. In a distant corner, Kiri suddenly changed, revealing her domineering personality. She ordered Tota to respect her, to sit down and bark like a dog. She tried to humiliate him, but he stopped her and proved that, despite his naivety, he was still a man. She accused him of wanting to crush her because he had failed again and again to save her. Tota did not understand what she meant, and before she could explain, Chao suddenly appeared and slit her throat. Tota rushed to save her, but she stopped him, grabbed his hand, and then died. Tota screamed and fainted. He woke to find himself at the base, with Kiri in front of him cursing him, explaining that she had rewound time. Amaya and Karen appeared to take Kiri to the capital. Tota almost exposed her secret, but she squeezed his fingers to silence him. On the way, Karen wondered how Tota had returned, and spoke with Amaya about the rumors surrounding Kiri's power. Kiri explained her ability. She could turn time back and bring one person with her to a safe point. She told Tota that she had died many times because of him, because he kept chasing the killer. She said he was extremely important to the future, and that was why she had tried to warn him. When they arrived in the capital, Kuromaru was shocked to see Tota return with Karen. Karen pulled Kuromaru aside to question him about the outing, while Kiri asked Amaya to speak with Tota alone. In a quiet place, Kiri explained that she had entered a cycle of death while heading to an appointment in the tower, and that there, she had met Kuromaru. Later on, Tota was out on a walk with Kiri, listening as she explained what was truly happening, when Chao suddenly appeared. Before he could attack, Tawada, who was with them, delivered a powerful kick that sent him flying backward. Tota apologized to Kiri, admitting that his stupidity had forced her to relive the same day countless times. Chao realized that Kiri posed a genuine threat, so he vanished into the shadows, preparing another attack. However, Tawada struck him with his sword and knocked him far away. Kiri was impressed and praised him happily. After that, Kiri told Tota that Fate Avarice was coming for him. She explained that this had already happened once before, when she had been with him in a restaurant. They had heard a disturbance, and when they went to investigate, they found a strange man holding Tota hostage, while the members of UQ Holder fought him. Fate defeated them with terrifying ease. He split Amaya in half with a single kick and sent Karen flying with a heavy punch. Enraged at seeing his friends fall so easily, Tota tried to fight back, but Fate turned him to stone and shattered his body. Kuromaru attempted to save him, only for Fate to show him just how insignificant he was in this battle. Then Fate appeared behind Kiri and tried to petrify her as well, but she committed suicide before the spell could be completed. Returning herself to the safe point, Tota was stunned by the entire story and asked who this man was. Kiri told him that fate was an enemy of humanity itself. Their argument grew heated, until Amaya and Karen entered, having listened to everything. Everyone now understood Kiri's ability, and Toda admitted that her power was truly terrifying. Amaya explained that they only used their abilities when absolutely necessary, so others would not exploit them. Toda reassured Kiri that he and his friends would never use her power for selfish reasons. Amaya and Karen agreed, but Kiri cursed him as usual, slapped him across the face, and then announced that she had a plan to capture Fate Avarice. Kiri quickly explained the plan. Because she had already witnessed these events before, she knew exactly how and when Fate would appear. She assigned Toda the role of distracting Fate by confronting him directly and gave him a phone to stay in contact, since he could not use telepathy. She told Karine and Amaya they were free to attack at will, while Kuromaru would hide in the shadows. She explained that they would win the moment Fate was touched, because she had prepared a safe point inside the dungeon beneath Yukihimi's villa. Amaya suggested that Kiri take all of them with her when she died, so they could return to the save point. She agreed and told them to gather around her at the decisive moment, then ordered everyone to move to their positions. Amaya wanted to use a satellite for the attack, but Karin warned him. He replied that a satellite was useless in close combat, like a sniper rifle at point-blank range. Toda asked Yukihimi for her opinion on the plan, but Kiri answered instead, saying that Fate could sense Yukihimi's presence and would not appear if she went to the shopping mall. At that moment, someone wearing a hooded jacket resembling Enzo bumped into Toda and vanished. Toda opened his phone and searched for Fate, only to see a video Yukihimi had posted specifically for him. It revealed that Fate and Toda's grandfather had once been on the same team and had saved the world together. Toda's grandfather, Negi Springfield, had died, while Fate had become a madman who hated humanity. Now, he was targeting Toda because of his connection to Negi. Yukihimi advised him to refuse any offer Fate might make. As the time drew near, everyone waited quietly for the leader to appear. Toda felt anxious, especially when Fate's name was spoken. He looked around and finally saw him, but stopped Amaya from using the satellite because Toda's friends from the village were walking behind Fate. Kiri decided to abort the mission, but Toda said it was too late. Fate had already seen him and was heading straight toward him. Toda waited for his friends, who ran up to him as soon as they recognized him, exchanging greetings and casual conversation. Amaya saw an opening and was about to press the button, but one of Fate's allies, a robotic-looking waitress, attacked him and took him down. Toda pretended to be happy to see his friends, while inside he burned with anger over the plan's failure. Suddenly, Fate joined them and introduced himself, while holding Toda's friends hostage. Kiri was furious that the plan had collapsed, but there was nothing left to do, and Amaya had already been defeated. Toda's friends tried to introduce themselves, but Fate already knew who they were. Toda was shocked. Fate then spoke calmly to him, attempting to manipulate his mind, offering that Toda follow him if he wanted to become great like his grandfather. Toda grew angry, but Fate threatened to erase everyone in the shopping mall within moments. In the end, Toda pretended to surrender. Fate ordered him to call his allies and tell them to surrender as well. He mocked Toda over his relationship with Yuki and reminded him that Yukihimi had once worked with Fate long ago. Toda rejected Fate's offer and called for his weapon. Fate sneered, calling him foolish compared to his grandfather. At that moment, Toda decided that the best solution was to spread chaos, and he shouted a warning about a terrorist in the shopping mall. In that instant, Karen attacked Fate from behind. Her true goal was to pull Toda's friends out of the battlefield. Toda joined the fight with her, and they struck simultaneously, but Fate blocked both attacks. Toda then increased his sword's weight to 500,000 times and shattered Fate's barrier. Fate's ally tried to intervene to save him, but in doing so, she gave Amaya a rare opening. He lunged forward, seized the control device, and activated the satellite. Amid the blazing chaos, Kuromaru lifted Kiri and charged straight toward Fate, knowing that her touch was the key to the plan. At the very same moment, Fate unleashed an immense gravity spell that completely halted the satellite attack descending from above. Kuromaru hurled Kiri with all his strength, and she collided with Fate's body. But before Kuromaru could finish off his opponents and join them, Fate activated petrification on her. Fate smiled, praised their effort, then mocked them for failing at the critical moment. Karen grabbed Kiri and told Toda that they had to retreat immediately. However, Fate fully dispersed the satellite attack and turned to face them. Coldly, he told Toda that his power had run out and that he needed to rest before it returned. Even so, Toda advanced toward him without thinking. Karen tried to stop him, but a monk suddenly appeared and attacked her. He introduced himself, and Karen responded in kind. Kuromaru shouted a warning that this monk possessed extremely dangerous powers and that she needed to be careful. On the other side, the six-armed man attacked Kuromaru once again, but this time, Kuromaru was ready. Meanwhile, Amaya confronted the waitress who had slipped in behind him. After a brief exchange of introductions, the battlefield split into separate confrontations, each fighter facing their own opponent. The balance of the battle began to tilt against the UQ holders, while Toda and Fate stood face to face, exchanging silent stares. Toda decided to use Flash Step, but Fate instantly read his movement and countered with a blow that sent him flying flying. In a shocking instant, Fate appeared behind Tota, declaring himself the true master of Flash Step. Fate summoned dozens of swords and launched his attack, but Tota blocked every single one. Fate praised him, then mockingly remarked that his grandfather would never have pushed his body to such a foolish extreme. Then he attacked again. This was when Tota revealed his true growth. He began controlling Kurobo's weight with precise mastery, lightening and increasing it in a single instant. Fate was forced into serious defense, and his barrier shattered once more. At that moment, a call came in from Karen. Kiri's petrification will break soon. Everyone must gather around Fate immediately. Tota decided to exploit his image as an idiot and deliberately acted foolish, trying to force Fate into a mistake. But Fate closed the distance again with Flash Step, and Tota realized he was too late. He dodged the first strike, but Fate pursued him, so Tota suddenly increased the sword's weight and slammed Fate violently into the ground. The petrification ended. Kiri touched Tota. The others rushed in and touched her one by one, and in the next instant, Kiri killed herself. Time rewound. Everyone regained consciousness inside the dungeon, with Fate among them. They mocked him for finally falling into the trap, and even Yukihime joined in. Fate's rage flared when he realized that everything that had happened was part of Yukihime's plan. He nearly attacked her, but she was ready to destroy him in an instant. Fate stopped, he thought. Then he chose to surrender and asked Yukihime to release him, something that infuriated Tota. Fate said he would reward them with the answer to a single question. Tota rushed forward to ask, but Karin stopped him, and Kuromaru insisted that the question had to be chosen carefully. Amaya stepped forward and asked about Fate's plans for Tota. Fate calmly replied that he intended to use Tota to save Negi Springfield, and that doing so would save the world. Tota was shocked to learn that his grandfather was still alive, and Fate advised him to ask Yukihime about it. Then Karen asked a shocking question. Who was the woman closest to Negi's heart? Her or Yukihime? Yukihime's anger erupted, and she threatened Karen with punishment later. Fate answered that Yukihime had fallen in love with Negi after her feelings for his father had failed, but he cut himself off when Yukihime unleashed her icy power, forcing him to evade. He was not interested in Negi's romantic life to begin with. Kuromaru stepped forward and asked whether Fate was in a hurry regarding Tota. Fate replied that he was not, meaning that Tota was not obligated to follow him now. Tota praised him, then asked his true question. Did you kill my parents? Silence fell. Fate answered, yes. Tota changed instantly as Magia Arabia began to surface. He vowed to defeat Fate, but suddenly, a hidden spell activated, and the image of Negi Springfield appeared before them. Tota recognized the man from his visions and greeted him. Negi exchanged greetings with Fate and Yukihime, but Yukihime sensed that something was wrong. Using telepathy, she ordered Kuromaru to search for a spell on Tota's body and destroy it. Tota asked his grandfather why he wanted to reach the top of the tower. Negi warned him not to believe Fate, saying that he had lied to protect him. During his explanation, Kuromaru discovered the spell and cut it apart, causing the hologram to vanish. Tota felt sorrow, having failed to hear the full truth. Fate resumed his clash with Yukihime, while Tota stood lost, unable to process what had just happened. Elsewhere, Kiri sat with Karen and Kuromaru, annoyed that Yukihime had let Fate escape, and angry that she had not gotten to see the famous Negi. Karen mocked her and asked if she had fallen in love with Tota, which Kiri denied vehemently. At the same time, Tota followed Yukihime everywhere, bombarding her with questions about Negi. When they reached her office, she went inside and shut the door in his face. Later on, several women arrived at the UQ villa requesting to meet Yukihime, and a small girl also asked to see Tota. Tota was working undercover as a waiter in a high-class restaurant, training alongside Kuromaru. He failed to notice Yukihime passing by disguised as a cleaning worker, and accidentally sliced open her trash bag with his sword. He admitted how tense he was, and she forgave him. From a distance, Kiri and Kuromaru watched the scene in astonishment, unable to believe just how close Yukihime had become to Tota. Mizore suddenly appeared, the strange girl who had arrived on the island with the other women. She went straight to Yukihime and demanded that she stay away from Tota. At that very moment, Kiri appeared alongside Kuromaru and questioned Mizore about her excessive confidence. Mizore explained that Tota belonged to a family that had caused pain to many women. She claimed that his great-grandfather, Negi Springfield, had always been surrounded by women, and that Negi had followed in his father's footsteps. She accused Negi of making her grandmother cry, and said that was why she had come to confront his grandson. Mizore attacked Tota, but he blocked her strike and pushed her away with ease. He leapt after her and caught her before she could fall. Her expression changed, confusion washing over her face. She declared that he had passed her standards and announced her decision to marry him to spare other women from suffering. Tota calmly refused her proposal. Elsewhere, her grandmother Ayaka was sitting with Yukihime, the two of them reminiscing about their memories with Negi Springfield back when he had been a teacher at a school full of gifted female students. They recalled how beloved he had been, how the students had competed for his attention, and how Asuna had once mocked a girl who tried to get close to him by bringing food. Ayaka and Yukihime laughed as they remembered those days. Tota returned to his cleaning work, and Mizore, now taken with him, decided to help. She began assisting him and bringing him meals. From a distance, Kiri, Kuromaru, and Karin watched her actions with irritation, unsettled by her persistent attempts to get close to him. Tota enjoyed the food and noticed the bandages on Mizore's hands, realizing she had cooked it herself. Kiri and Kuromaru concluded that Mizore was sincere, only deepening their unease. Karin mocked Kiri and accused her of being in love with Tota, which Kiri fiercely denied. Karin then explained the difference between immortals and humans, insisting that Tota would always choose humans. Amaya joined them and claimed he had a solution, proposing that they make Tota fall in love with them by helping him in the hot springs. No one trusted him, but when he threatened to tell Mizore and Yuki, they had no choice but to listen. Meanwhile, Yukihime and Ayaka discussed Negi's recent appearance at the villa. Yukihime stated that Negi was still bound to a certain woman, and that his appearance would not have been possible without her permission. They entered a mental debate over Yukihime's behavior toward Tota, with Ayaka accusing her of not letting him live his own life out of fear of losing him. As Amaya and Tota relaxed in the hot springs, Amaya told the story of the incident that had left him in a coma for over 70 years. Tota wondered why he was telling him this, and Amaya replied that he was waiting for the girl's decision. In different corners, each of them was planning how to win Tota over by scrubbing his back. Karin entered first and scrubbed his back roughly. Kiri intervened and shoved her aside, and the argument between them escalated. Yuki appeared and tried to help, but Mizore stopped her, and the rivalry between Kiri and Mizore began. Kuromaru stepped in and rescued Tota, explaining that he was protecting him from their recklessness. The situation spiraled. Tota fell into the bath, and Kiri decided to punish Kuromaru for interfering. Tota was completely confused, unable to understand why all this was happening. Yukihime stepped into the bath and asked what was going on. After he explained, she began gently scrubbing his back while the others continued arguing. Watching Yukihime apologize for her past behavior, Tota forgave her. The incident ended without any dramatic change, and Amaya concluded that the bond between Tota and Yukihime was already strong. Afterward, Yukihime checked her injuries, while Mizore suggested using a bomb. The two agreed not to give up on winning Tota over. Later, Tota asked Yukihime whether she loved Negi Springfield. She answered yes, then explained that what had appeared was not the real Negi. She revealed that Negi had defeated a mage 20 years ago, but that mage had possessed him, and that she and Fate had tried to save him in different ways. Yukihime then told Tota that his parents had not died as he believed, and that he himself had been created only 2 years ago as a clone of Negi. Tota was utterly shattered and fell into deep sorrow. Kuromaru tried to comfort him, but failed. Mizore and Kiri stepped in and suggested he take part in a martial arts tournament to change his state of mind. Yukihime acknowledged that she had told him the truth, while Mizore took Tota to the capital to show him the tournament arena. She explained that he could participate if he won the qualifiers. He tried to register, but all slots were filled, so he decided to prepare for the next tournament instead. Ayaka introduced Tota to Mana Tatsumiya, the tournament director, and reminded her that Negi had once taught at the same school. Later, Ayaka led Tota to visit his father's old classroom, where he remembered how shy yet well-liked he had been. He met elderly women who had known Negi, and when he told them he was a clone, they were not surprised, assuring him that Negi would have accepted him as his grandson. Warmth filled Tota's heart, and Ayaka embraced him gently until Kuromaru stepped in protectively. A call came into Mizore from the tournament administration. One of the contestants had been injured, and they urgently needed a replacement. At last, Tota had finally gained his chance to enter the competition. Tota stepped into the arena, and his friends decided to cheer him on. The voices of Mizore, Kiri, and Kuromaru rose as they called his name. On the opposite side stood his opponent, Cutlass. The very man who had previously worn a hooded jacket bumped into Tota before and placed a communication spell on him. Cutlass smiled confidently as he waited for the attack. Tota charged first, but Cutlass instantly summoned his weapon and blocked the strike. He swung his sword and sent Tota flying backward, then followed up to continue the assault. Even so, Tota remained standing and admitted that his opponent was truly strong. Cutlass grew angrier and increased the intensity of his attacks, calling Tota by name in a falsely friendly tone. Kuromaru commented that Cutlass possessed an excessive lust for combat, something inappropriate for an official tournament. At the same time, Mana went to check on the injured contestant, only to discover that Cutlass himself had attacked him to steal his place. Tota continued fighting, searching for an opening, but was struck by a magical spell that blasted him away. Cutlass then used a brutal technique that split Tota's body in half. Kiri and Kuromaru screamed, and Mizore anxiously asked whether Tota was alright. Kuromaru explained that the barrier surrounding the arena prevented any outside interference. Tota rose once more and allowed Magia Arabia to take control. Cutlass was unfazed. He mocked Tota and belittled him. Tota attacked with overwhelming force, forcing Cutlass to defend and retreat. However, Cutlass drew a second sword and stabbed him, then used multiple blades to pin him to the ground, calling him an incomplete copy of Negi Springfield. The words shook Tota, but the cheers of his friends brought him back to his senses. He shattered the weapon restraining him and attacked Cutlass again. At that moment, it was revealed that his opponent was, in fact, a woman. Suddenly, Negi Springfield himself appeared inside the arena and stood beside Cutlass, releasing the binding spell on Tota. The crowd erupted at the sight of him, but Mana intervened and explained that this was not the real Negi, rather the mage of the beginning using his body, who had come to take Tota. Negi tried to persuade Tota to go with him, but Tota demanded to know why he had been absent for so long. Negi answered that he did not know Tota's location. Cutlass explained that Negi had sent visions of himself to everyone in the world who carried his blood. Negi scolded Cutlass for insulting Tota and accused Yukihime of hiding him from the world. As if she had been waiting for that moment, Yukihime appeared and attacked immediately. She placed herself between Tota and Negi and rebuked the mage of the beginning. Both sides prepared to fight, but two of Negi's allies appeared suddenly and bound Yukihime with a spell. One of them tried to attack Tota, but Kuromaru and Karin stopped him just in time. Tawada prepared to join the battle, and a direct clash began between Negi's followers and the UQ holders. Negi mocked them, while his followers defended him. Tota declared clearly that he would not allow Negi to win. Yukihime explained the nature of their enemies to her allies. One who knows everything, one who sees everything, and the greatest swordsman among them. She stated plainly that she did not wish to face this group head-on. Suddenly, Negi sneezed violently, and everyone's clothes in the arena were blown away. Tota panicked upon seeing all the women in his life in that state, while Yukihime warned them that Negi was not an easy opponent. Inside the arena, Kiri tried to stop the fight, proposing that they persuade Negi instead of fighting him. However, Eva read her thoughts and exposed her true intent to buy time and analyze their weaknesses, leaving Tota completely confused. Yukihime explained that Eva possessed a notebook that allowed her to know everything about her opponents. Eva offered Tota a chance to join them, while Nodoka explained that she was the only successful fusion of Negi's and Asuna's blood. Tota rejected the offer. At that moment, an unknown voice declared that it would take Tota. Yukihime's expression changed, and Tota was suddenly transported to another dimension. He saw Yukihime lost and exhausted, then shifted to another time and beheld a castle on the edge of a cliff. A smiling man appeared and introduced himself as Colonel Sanders, but Tota's sword revealed his true name, Ai, the blacksmith who had forged it, and warned that he was a demon more dangerous than Yukihime. Ai admitted that he was Yukihime's friend, and that his mission was to persuade Tota. Tota witnessed a memory of Yukihime falling from the cliff and being saved by Negi Springfield the Elder, Negi's father. From that moment, Yukihime fell in love with Negi and became attached to him. He then saw another memory from Negi's time teaching at the academy. Yukihime was happy with his son. Yet she controlled him until Asuna intervened and saved him. Ai confessed that what Tota had seen were not merely memories. Tota realized that Yukihime herself had been present. At that moment, Laba, the mage of the beginning, appeared and took Yukihime hostage. Tota tried to intervene, but Ia restrained him with a gravity spell. Laba offered Tota a deal. Join her, and Yukihime would be made happy. Tota crawled forward and touched Yukihime, and the two vanished together. He encouraged her to keep going, but she wept, saying that no one could walk beside her forever. She remembered the moment Tota's parents begged her to save him, and how he had promised to walk with her for eternity. Tota accused Laba of being the source of Yukihime's suffering. Laba attacked them, but they escaped. Yukihime explained that this was a world controlled by Laba, then began to fight. She stopped suddenly when she saw an image of Negi and his son. Negi declared his love for Yukihime, but Tota intervened, reigniting the battle. Laba shattered Yukihime's ice attack, and Negi struck Tota, knocking him into a waterway. Tota tried to save Yukihime, but drowned spirits dragged him under. At that moment, Asuna appeared, saved him, broke the spell, and introduced herself, allowing Tota to realize that she was his grandmother. Asuna explained that her real body had been asleep for 20 years, but that she existed within Tota. Yukihime joined them in astonishment. Asuna explained that time was frozen and that they had to defeat Laba in the real world. Asuna laid out the battle plan and ordered Tota to endure for 37 seconds. She broke the spell, and time resumed. Everyone charged forward. Kiri faced Jack Raken, striking his eye and creating an opening for Karen to deliver a decisive blow. Kuromaru clashed with Yu and Nodoka, drawing them away exactly as planned. Tota charged toward Negi, but Cutlass stopped him, only for Yukihime to freeze her instantly. Tota attacked Negi, who blocked at the last moment, and the battle continued. Amid the clash, countless spirits erupted from Negi's body, and Laba mocked Tota. At that moment, Fate and Yukihime appeared together, and blocked Negi's sword. Fate used a special spell that drew out the true soul from within them, allowing Tota to see the real Negi without Lalda's influence. Negi appeared clearly, greeted Tota Tota, then turned to Fate and Yukihime as well. Fate told Negi that Tota was the only key capable of freeing him from Lalda, and that at the same time he could grant all of humanity the gift of immortality. Negi thanked Fate, but reminded him that the plan would only succeed if Fate killed him first. At that moment, Fate's expression changed, fear surfacing because he did not want Negi to die. Negi told Tota that he had many things to say, but Tota asked him to leave for now and spend his time with Yukihime instead. Yukihime ran to Negi and embraced him tightly. He returned the hug and gently calmed her, but there was no time for emotions. Lalda dragged them back into the real world and the battle resumed immediately. Fate and Yukihime tried to bind Negi with a sealing spell, but he broke free effortlessly. His body began to radiate power as he attacked them both, knocking them aside in an instant. When he turned toward Tota, Tota's body began to glow as well, and the clash between them intensified. At the same time, Nodoka broke free from Kuromaru's spell and launched a fierce attack on him, while Jack Raken shifted from defense to offense against Karen, unleashing a relentless barrage of punches. Tota struggled against his grandfather as the battle spilled into the streets of the capital, causing massive destruction. Tawada was forced to use Kurobo's weight to escape, but Negi was already waiting for him. In that moment, Tota realized he had underestimated his grandfather's strength far too much. Yukihime searched desperately for Tota amid the ruined city and nearly got caught in the destruction. Rage ignited within Tota, and he attacked Negi ferociously, striking him again and again without pause. Suddenly, Jack Raken appeared behind Tota and stabbed him, bringing the battle to a temporary end. Negi stood consumed by rage, while Lalda and her group emerged victorious. Tota's entire team collapsed to the ground, wounded, exhausted, and defeated. Negi drew his spear and prepared to strike, but Kiri leapt in front of him and challenged him to kill her instead. Negi approached her, thanked her, and praised her love for his grandson. Kiri denied it vehemently. Yukihime confirmed that his words were true, causing Kiri to scream when she realized he had read her thoughts. Negi praised her honesty. As Kiri tried to retreat, Cutlass suddenly stabbed her. She forced Kiri's mouth open and pulled out a poison capsule hidden between her teeth. Tota raged at her cruelty, but Cutlass revealed yet another capsule hidden in the same way. Kiri reminded them that they needed to buy time, just as Asuna had ordered. Suddenly, a spell activated and dragged Negi into a scene from the past, where he found himself standing before his students. They greeted him in shock, then attacked him with various spells. Some struck him, yet he remained standing, proving that their efforts alone were insufficient. Tota watched as well, noticing Yukihime in the past too, attacking Negi only to restrain him, while other girls used slow-acting spells. Chachamaru joined the fight, but her weapon transformed into a beam that sliced clothing, triggering old memories, as Negi had once done the same. Asuna appeared before Negi and reminded him of his beliefs. She then transported them elsewhere, leaving herself alone with Negi and Tota. She praised Yu and Nodoka for preserving Negi's mind, despite Lalda's control, told them she would join them later, and left them to continue. Lalda's control intensified, and she mocked Asuna directly. Asuna responded with equal sarcasm, announcing her withdrawal. Negi told Tota that he would wait for his answer at the top of the tower. When Tota tried to stop him, a blinding light stole his vision. When he regained consciousness, the enemies were gone. Tota stood with Yukihime and the rest of their allies, staring at the devastation. The sound of approaching police echoed through the arena. The remaining UQ holders arrived as well. Jinbei spoke of his own battle, explaining that he had used a secret technique to protect everyone, while Ameya and Yuki used technology to evacuate civilians from the collapsed building. Mizore felt sad that she had not seen Tota fight, but Ayaka comforted her, recalling how Negi had always borne everything alone. Yukihime and Fate agreed to suspend their hostility for now, but Fate warned her not to stand in his way again. Tota gazed at the tower with his friends and silently vowed to meet Negi again, unaware of a strange woman watching him from afar with a mysterious smile. They returned to the UQ headquarters. Tota sat by the water while the girls and Kuromaru gathered, talking about Kiri's confession in the arena. Kiri tried to deny it, but Tota thanked her for what she had done. Still, no one believed her denial. They followed Tota to Yukihime's office, wanting to hear what he would say. Tota took a deep breath and shouted, confessing his love for Yukihime. She ran toward him and punched him hard. He stood back up and repeated his confession, protesting her punishment. He said he had decided when he saw her crying during the battle with Lalda that he did not want her to disappear alone. He vowed to walk beside her for the rest of his life and asked her to marry him. Yukihime rejected his proposal, and Tota's heart shattered. Karen screamed at him for daring to ask for their leader's hand and attacked him, forcing Tota to flee. Yukihime smiled calmly and said that Tota was 500 years too late for such a request. And thus, the story came to an end. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like and subscribe. Tell us what you think of this tale, and until we meet